Welcome to Educators with Oil. Hi, I am your hostess, Ronette Branham, here to offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. Today is a great episode. Today we will be talking about not bridging, but closing that achievement gap for minority students or Black and Brown students. I say Black and Brown students because we have minority students who are in that achievement. They're not even in the achievement gap. There's no gap for them. So just knowing that there is a achievement gap that needs to be filled or closed, that's something that needs to be addressed. I have a special guest today that is, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. Uh, I have a guest today who is a consultant, an education consultant, who this is what she does, closes academic achievement gaps for K to 12 minority students. And this is something dear to my heart because as you know, I teach um, dual language classroom where my students are Spanish speaking students who are newcomers to this country, who have been maybe in the country for a year, maybe two, because I only teach second grade, and or they have never gone to school before. And also because I have these students, I found that there is an achievement gap that I'm trying my best to fill or close or get a bridge to get them to jump over. I'm not sure what it is that I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get the students on grade level, at grade level, near grade level, trying to approach grade level, and that has been a fight. So, with that said, I have our guest coming. Her name is Yasha Chapman, and I want you to welcome Yasha to the stage. Hi, Yasha. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited about this episode. I was getting a little distracted because I took a little bit of time to do something I should have done. And so um, I kind of lost track of what I was going to say, but I'm excited that you're here because just talking to you, it just inspired me to know like there's somebody else out there like me or who is like minded, who is trying to close these gaps in education that the students have, and we want the students to be on a level playing field, having all the material, all the information that is out there for their grade levels and beyond. And so it's just exciting to have someone here that is on the same path. um so with that, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started being a consultant?
Oh, sure. So this is actually my 13th year in education itself. And so I've served in a couple of roles. I've been a classroom teacher. I've been a tutor, curriculum coordinator, and an instructional coach. And when I became an instructional coach, I really found out like this is what I love to do. As a classroom teacher, my goal and really in any position that I've had has been to close the academic achievement gaps. And so I was very successful in doing so as a classroom teacher. And I said, well, if I can make this kind of change and impact with 18 or 25 kids, what can I do on a larger scale? And so that's what prompted me to become an instructional coach so that my impact could be greater and I could really help other teachers who may not have gotten the pedagogy or support that they needed leaving teacher preparation programs. And so after that, that's when I was like, I really want to take this on full time without the constraints of contractual hours, and I just wanted to be in charge of my own time and with my own partnerships, meaning who I got to work with and who I got to support. And so that's what led me to becoming an educational consultant.
Oh, sounds familiar, kind of. I wasn't a coach, but I tutored. I had the tutoring business, and because I find that when teachers are tutors, it's because they see that there's a gap somewhere, and the students need more than they can get in the classroom, and that is like a driving force of other things, and it just is. So I
Yes.
can appreciate that. I like that you actually did that, and saw that what I did in this class, I can do at a broader scale, and I
Yeah.
like that. I can
Mhm.
appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
with that said, I know we have so many strategies. Okay, I'm gonna give you a scenario. I can give you two. I
Okay.
can give you 10, but my students are, like I said, I have the dual language program where I'm the English side, and then I have a partner teacher where we switch in the middle of the day. She takes the class I have in the morning, and she takes them and teaches them in Spanish. I teach in English, she teaches in Spanish. Mind
Mhm.
you, I I created this chart. The chart is, um, if they speak English, are fluent in English,
Mhm.
know a little bit of English, or no English at all. Then on this
Mhm.
side, this axis, uh,
Mhm.
there is, um, no, they have no alphabet knowledge, or they
Okay.
don't know any letters. They can do CVC words. They could, add some digraphs, or they could read fluently for second grade. So I don't know if you could see that, and you could picture that, right?
Okay.
That line. So down here is majority of the students. Down here in this little
Okay.
corner where they don't know the alphabet, they don't know the English. And then in the
Okay.
middle, they have that. Then, of course, you have some people on second grade and they're fluid. They're way up here. And that is like, how how do you bridge that gap, close that gap, when this is second grade? I can't
Mhm.
teach you second grade if you don't know the alphabet. I don't care
Mhm.
what they say. They're putting you in my class because you're 7. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
whether you've gone to school or didn't, what do I do with that? What do I do with that? Or
Yeah.
what do you suggest I do with that?
I think your strategy that you have implemented already seems strong, as far as the switching and you speaking in English and your co-teacher speaking in Spanish, because it gives them that exposure at both languages. But I think the main thing to start with is using pictures to illustrate what it is that you're talking about. Having pictures with your calendar, the school calendar, school, what we're doing today. This is the subject, this is what we learn about, this is, pretty much exposing them to this is the content itself, but you do that through illustration. And so with that being the foundation or starting point, then you can build on to, okay, because we learn about books and words and letters, this is one of the letters that we're going to start with. So pretty much it's like starting at a I want to say a pre-K level, or with the infant that's just learning to read and learning to speak. And so that's the level you start from, but at the same time you still want to read to them books and stories that are on grade level so that they can hear the vocabulary, they can hear the proper way to use the words and put it into perspective like that. And then of course along with that, handwriting, the practice to apply what it is that you're teaching. And I think that's a good starting point for that group that's down there at 0.
And that's what I do. At, that's what I do because I have to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I teach second grade. The curriculum is teach
Right.
second grade. Teach second grade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it does that does not work. You have to, like you said, you have to
Mhm,
get down there where they are. You have to have those
mhm,
pictures, those
mhm,
visuals. Like, that's
mhm.
something that you have to do. And
Yes.
just thinking like, okay, I'm not even teaching second grade. I'm not teaching second grade. And
No.
should I be teaching second grade? Can I? That's impossible. Is it impossible, or
Mhm.
am I just dreaming? Like, you know what I mean?
It's not in it. You can expose them to second grade work, but I think the idea to have the expectation that they're going to perform on grade level is not realistic. because there has to be an alternative way or an alternative path that we create for non-English speaking students before we just immerse them into full-blown public education, or it's just not fair to them. It's not fair to the teacher, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know in my teacher preparation programs, both when I received my bachelor's and my master's, I never had a class on how to work with non-English speaking students. And so it was just really through experience and trial and error where I got that information. And so yeah, I don't think it's anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
So I'll throw that out there, but I don't think it's a realistic expectation. But just like with the
Yeah.
baby, when you're teaching them to talk, you're reading to them on a much greater level than what they can
Hmm.
comprehend. But the more you do it, the faster, the quicker it'll be that they catch on. And then eventually they'll be saying those words and they'll understand this is how a story goes. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. So you will reach that point. It might not be in that school year. And so I think that's something else we have to remember too, is sometimes we just plant seeds. We don't always get to
Yeah.
see that seed grow and develop into a flower or a tree. We just have to do the best that we can with what we have.
Yeah, I hate hearing people say that. I hate hearing people say the plant seed. I'm just sorry.
But
I
it's
agree with
the truth.
everything. I know it's true, but I can't stand that because I'm a results oriented person. And that is like,
Yeah.
I need results. I'm teaching second grade, and that's something I had to learn because of of real life. This is real life right here. You have students, so um I don't want to just take off from where you're going to go, but there's something there's so- what I did. I divided my class in half. The two classes in half. I divided them in half, and I have the lower performing students, I'll call that, and then the high performing students. But then I have that big group in the middle who they should not be with the higher, but I had to put them somewhere. And so
Right.
I'm pulling them up, like dragging them, with the high performing. And then there's some who know letters, but they have to be somewhere. You can't just can't. You don't have. I need another teacher, and then we could
Mm-hmm.
do that third group. But
Mm-hmm.
we're working on it, and that playing
Yeah.
seeds that bothers me because I heard something. I heard something before. I'm gonna let you talk in 1 second. I heard something where a teacher told me something about success for all, where this whole school was on board. Where at this particular hour, the students went with their performing level. I don't know what is their performance level with this teacher. If I read and write at a level A through D, I'm with this teacher at this hour, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth, so that they can
Mm-hmm.
learn. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's good, but that's sort of what I'm doing. But I don't have. I need another teacher. But
Yeah.
again,
I'm familiar with success for all. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a good strategy because again, that's like ability level grouping. And so you're not giving them work that's above where they are. You're not giving them work that's below. It's just right. That zone of proximal development. And so that's where we want to stay at when we're teaching them. And I want to challenge you. I feel like you say you're results oriented, and I believe you. And I'm sure at the end of the school year you will see results, even if it's something as small as they weren't able to write their name. So at the end of the year they can, or they weren't able to identify 10 letters, but at the end of the year they're able to do it. And so it may not be leaps and bounds of growth that we want to see, but I'm for sure that they are growing. It just may be in smaller increments than we'd hope for.
yeah, I know. I'm saying crazy. No, just fine. But okay, so you have any strategies or off? What is it that you have for us? I shouldn't even when I just started talking, but I'm excited about this subject because this is what I do and this is what I need, and
Mm-hmm.
this is my life right here. This
Mm-hmm.
closing that achievement gap because
Mm-hmm.
you see what I'm working with. This is and it didn't have to be that because this was before I had this group of students, this
Mm-hmm.
demographic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I know this is what you offer schools and districts.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that work?
The process of me partnering with
what you
schools and
offer,
districts,
yeah,
or what I offer.
what you offer to schools as far as strategies or information that will help them close that achievement gap.
Okay, so I offer consultations. So that's where I sit with the school leadership team. We review data, we review school and culture climate, and we create strategic plans. We create like an instructional vision. We do it long term, so as far out as 3 to 5 years, and we break down what steps we're going to take within each year to get to our ultimate end goal. With that, within the strategic plan, we create evaluation systems or rubrics, and that is the instructional focus. So when teachers are getting observed, or and we're trying to get their professional development enhanced, it's all towards that instructional vision that we've created with the team leadership. Aside from that, I also assist in hiring. um, Separate from consultation, I do provide my regular services, which are professional development trainings. I do singular or 4-part workshops, as well as instructional coaching, and that's group coaching and one-on-one coaching with teachers.
Oh, I so you need to be in New Jersey some back out this way some.
Hey, bring me up. I would love to come to New Jersey. I would love to.
Yeah, yeah, because that professional, this is professional. I advertise this. I don't know where my people at right now, but I said this is a professional development workshop tonight because this is exactly what it is. And
Yes,
we need strategies to help our students move. You know,
right.
move. We have to move the needle because our students are struggling. And then I heard so many statistics about students not reading on grade level by fourth grade, what is happening with the criminal justice system based off that information. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to, we are
Mm-hmm.
more likely to be arrested, and spend some time, with the officers than others.
Yes.
But if we can't read by the fourth grade, and this is what you're basing things off of, because
Mm-hmm.
this is something that is real. So I
Right.
I know you gave us one strategy for ELL students, English language learners, to start with visuals and use
Right.
pictures, and I do that. I have my computer up, my TV
Mm-hmm.
monitor on, and we're going over words. And well, how do you say this in English? And then what is this? And then if I say a word and they don't get it, I put up the picture. And then okay, but that's how I say cow in English. How do you say cow? What is this to you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one strategy. So what is another strategy that you might offer for struggling students who are below grade level in anything,
Yeah.
whether it's math, literacy, science, social
Yeah.
studies?
The first strategy, which is, I know we've heard it 1,000 times, which is to actually get to know your students and build authentic relationships with them. And that has to be the first part, because just like, I mean, children are people, right? But with adults, you don't trust someone right off the bat, right? You have to work to build a relationship before you can say I actually trust you with this. Learning is a vulnerable process, and you have to be open to making mistakes, to being embarrassed, and that has to come with trust. So that's why that relationship piece is so fundamental and so necessary. When they know that they can trust you, and when they know that you care, they will work for you. And I've seen it time again. So get that relationship piece established. Support them in and out of the classroom, because they have to know that they matter as a whole person. So when I was a classroom teacher, my students, they were cheerleaders, they were dancers, they were football players. I would go to their games. I would go to their cheer competitions or their dance recitals. One, that was something that a teacher for me did when I was a young child, when I was young, and it's just stuck with me because I just felt so seen and so cared about, that she would come to bring her husband, to my dance recital, or show up at my birthday party. And gratefully, thankfully, I've been able to do the same for my students. So after that relationship piece is built, then we want to make sure our classroom management is where it has to be, because we can't deliver effective instruction without having control of the classroom. So with establishing rules, students have to be a part of that process so that they have ownership in what's being done. I would make mine. They would come up with the rules. We do it together. No more than 5. Keep it short and
Mm.
sweet. And then they will all sign their names at the bottom of it. And I laminated it, hung it up on my door. And so anytime any of the rules were broken, I would just point to where they signed their name at and say, well, that was an agreement that you made. And so it puts the self accountability and self reflection piece into action like right away. And then they could do a quick self check. Something else I did was I empowered them from the time they walked into my classroom. Meaning I literally transformed my classroom into a castle. And I referred to my students as kings and queens. And in doing so, holding them at a higher standard with higher expectations, they rose to them, they met them. So they behaved like kings and queens, they performed as such, they spoke as such. And I believe that wherever you set the bar is where students will rise. And that helped a lot with my classroom management and along with building the relationships. You want me to keep going?
Oh, that's a lot. You remind me of Darrell Williams Jr. Just he gives these strategies, and his is that setting the standards at the beginning, and he does that.
Yeah.
And so I thought about him, but yeah, those relationships. I heard somebody say, people say that another person said the students have to have a buy-in. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're like we're salespeople, and they have to be
Mm-hmm.
sold on education. And I
Yeah.
thought about, as you said that, I had two students. One, he was really struggling, and now he knows that he can learn whatever information he's getting. Any information he could learn how to spell words and sound out words, and come up with
Mm-hmm.
an answer for if I ask how do I spell something, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
has it. He's sold on it. And he didn't start out that way. And he's just so excited because he can do it. He feels like he's one of the top in the class. In that class,
Mm-hmm.
he is. But he feels
Yeah.
like he's one of the top. And then I have another kid who he would turn red if you asked him anything.
Mm.
Or if you ask him to write, how you dictate sentences or words or anything, he would be red because he wouldn't work.
Mhm.
He didn't feel like he could do it. And then I gave him
Mhm.
a simple sentence after we went over and words. Then he
Mhm.
wrote it, and I'm like, well, which one of these words could be that word that you're looking for?
Mhm.
Then he found it.
Mhm.
So then the next day when he had to write a longer sentence, he was red again. He didn't write. And then I'm like, well, yesterday you wrote a sentence with that very word. Like, where's
Mhm.
the problem? So then he starts smiling. He's looking, and he's like, oh yeah, yeah. Now he remembers. So now he's like, he's getting more sold on the idea that
Mhm.
he can succeed, and he can have success,
Right.
because that's what I look for, success. If I
Mhm.
give my students success, let them have successes, then they're going to move. So I like that. That is part of building relationship, I believe. I
Yeah.
might do it a little differently, but you do have to get to know the students and what drives them a little bit. So I
Mhm.
like those two strategies. Yeah.
Yeah, something
I
else to
have
get buy-in. I'm sorry, what did you say?
no, I was just speaking to somebody online.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else to get buy-in is for me, I worked at a Title I school, and it was majority of low income students. And so I would just ask them, take a look at your life, and do you enjoy it? Do you like it? What do you see for yourself? Do you want more? So one day I just asked them, what kind of car do you want to drive? And so I'm writing the names of the cars on the board. I'm pulling up pictures online. What type of house do you want to live in? And I'm pulling up the houses that look like that. And I'm like, okay. And so I start writing down the prices. Well, this is how much this costs. And this is how much this house costs. Okay, so now what kind of job are you going to get so that you can afford this? And then, like, we broke it down. Okay, if you're going to get this kind of job, then what skills do you need to learn? Okay, you need literacy, you need math. Okay, so when it's time for us to do math, you need to be what? Paying attention. Do you think that's the time for you
Mhm.
to be talking and playing with your friends? So I literally started with, what is your dream? What is your vision for your life? This is how much that vision costs. this is the job you need to have to make this come true. So these are the skills that you need to make sure you have under your belt in order to make this money, in order to have this dream come to fruition. And so that's how I got their buy-in. So anytime they were
Yeah.
off track, I would say, you want to be driving a putt-putt? And they go, Miss Chapman, what's a putt-putt? And I say, you know that car that go put, 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 put. You know, it can't, it does
Yeah.
that when you crank it up. It's smoking when you drive it down the street. I said, what do you think of that? And, you know, and says, is that what you want to drive? And no, I don't. And so they started this own little joke. They say, I'm not driving no putt-putt. I'm paying attention, you know? So, but that's what they needed to be able to relate to it and understand that the life I live now is not what I want when I grow up. And so that with the empowerment piece is what and the relationships is what really drove the motivation along with my high expectations. So I had the saying, if you show me you can do something once, that's it, because I'm gonna expect you to do
Yeah.
it every time. So
Oh, absolutely.
regardless if you did it with me by your side or you did it independently, you can do it, and we're
Yes.
gonna do it every time. And so that was something, I'm just knowing that I'm not giving up on you, and I'm not gonna let you give up on yourself, because you told me you wanted to be a football player, or you told me you wanted to be a dentist. So I'm gonna make sure that you're on track to do that. And so yeah.
Yeah. That and it is something. It's like creating a vision board for your students,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you could create short vision boards for the school year, but then a vision board, like you said, for where you want to be when you grow up. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the one of the things that the guy I put his name up. Let me see what his name is again. Because I like this book right here. This book, where is it? It's not showing. I don't know what happened. This book right here by Jawanza Kunjufu. This book, it
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of strategies, and one thing is that ask the students what do they want to be when they grow up, and that is a thing. So then you start speaking to them as that, and like you call
Mm-hmm.
your students king and queen. One strategy is, okay, you want to be a doctor, call them Doctor So and So, or he even
Mm-hmm.
has another strategy where he calls them Mr. and Miss, whatever their last name is, addresses
Mm-hmm.
them as that. So let him,
Mm-hmm.
sees, who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have higher esteem, So that,
Yes.
but that vision, having a vision in front of them, because some students, I don't know that when I was a child, had a vision for what I wanted to be as
Mm-hmm.
an adult. I can't remember. I remember being a
Mm-hmm.
little bit older, and I said I wanted to be a police officer. Why? I don't know, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I remember telling
Yeah.
somebody, but I was like a teenager then. But as a child, I don't remember dreaming like that. I just
Yeah.
remember being a kid in the moment. I didn't have
Yeah.
that. Okay, well, I want to do this when I grow up. I don't remember that. But now the students, you can talk to them about that. You could have then, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody did. But talk to them as that, and then they'll have something to strive for. And like you said, well, what kind of car do you want to drive? But it's even
Mm-hmm.
more than that. I want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we need to learn some science and learn something about science.
Right.
So
100%. We have to connect the dots to them so that they can see the bigger picture. And a part of doing that is also within your instruction. Whenever I unpacked a lesson or did my opening, I always gave the relevance of why you're going to need this in real life, always providing a real world example as to how we use this, as to how this concept connects to what it is that I'm getting ready to teach you. And by the end of this lesson, like we always went over our objectives. This is what you're going to get. And so by the end of it, I would repeat the objectives, and they would have to be able to tell me, where they were on target with the understanding of it. So I had a target symbol, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it was a quick hold up your fingers. One meaning I don't know it at all, I'm lost. Two, I'm okay, I need some more practice. Three, I'm almost there, but I feel confident. Four, I can teach it to somebody else. And so by doing so, it would give me a quick informal assessment as to where everybody was and how I needed to move forward with with that objective or that skill for the next lesson based off of what they showed me. And so again, it's a self reflection for them. Where am I? Do I actually understand this objective? Can I actually repeat back the relevance and how I'm going to use this in the real world? And so that was an instructional piece again that I use quite often. And I enforce that because as a parent, I know it irks me when my kids come home from school. I'm like, what'd you learn? And they go, I don't know.
Yeah,
No, 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 no,
yeah,
no, no. You're gonna tell me something.
yeah,
And so it
yeah.
was the same for my students. I'm like, you're not gonna go home and tell your mom and daddy you don't know. And so literally at dismissal, I mean at the end of every lesson, but again at
Mhm.
dismissal, while we're waiting for bus riders or walkers or whatever to be called, their exit ticket was they had to tell me 2 things that they learned that day. Every
That's
day.
funny. I used to do that,
Every day.
and then I don't know what happened. That was it, and everything you just said, it just something happens in the chaos that I'm like, oh yeah, we forgot about that, and that was
Oh
like a
no, there's
big
no
thing.
chaos when the classroom is organized now. Like, no, I don't care
Yeah,
what's going on in the hallway. I don't care
yeah,
what's going on in these announcements. I don't care
yeah,
who called you on this walkie 2 times.
yeah,
What did you learn today? I need 2 things. So because this is an everyday thing, you already know Miss Chapman gonna ask you. It
yeah.
should already be on your brain. But it also helps with retention.
Yeah, it does because they're gonna have to know that they have to remember
Mm-hmm.
something to say I learned this, and so that is we have that. That's one major right there. Is our habits. Our habits
Mm-hmm.
is what is going to. I don't care what you're teaching. Is what is the main reason your students are
Mm-hmm.
closing that achievement gap is because
Oh
of our
yes.
habits. If
Yes.
we don't have habits that are the student knows, uh, like for math, for instance, my student know
Mm-hmm.
the whole math routine. They know it from beginning to end. They know. We start math. What do you take out? You take out your dry erase board and your marker. If you're not going to use a
Mm-hmm.
dry erase board, a white piece of paper and a pencil, because you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
a little. Then you're going to go over. I forgot, like a solve and share or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and then we have the lesson and then we practice. They already know the routine, so they
Right.
should know that routine. And then at the end of every lesson there's a recap, and it should
Mm-hmm.
be it, we just have to
Mm-hmm.
keep that. We can't get distracted. We just have to know
Right.
this is it, and the
Yeah.
students will learn. You're absolutely right, because when you start forgetting, then it's just like, oh well. Then you start going in
Yeah.
other class. I see if you teach second grade, you
Yeah.
it's science time, and you still, because you didn't close the class, you didn't close the
Mm-hmm.
lesson, and now the
Mm-hmm.
science, they're like, class is over, like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I like.
kids need consistency,
Mhm.
especially children from underserved communities. Their home lives are very very different. Some are not structured, and some have a lot of trauma and a lot of chaos. And so school is the one place where they should be able to depend on that consistency, that reliability of structure and care and attention. And so yeah.
Yeah, that structure, and just knowing that I can count on my teacher. If I can't count on anybody else I know and I come in the classroom, you're absolutely right. So
Yes.
I agree with that. So we have what kind of strategies do we have right now? We have um
We talking about doing class norms,
routines.
routines,
Oh,
rules,
okay.
getting to know your students,
Hmm.
um, making sure you provide a vision, reminding them of their vision and establishing that so that they have something that motivates them and they can work towards. Again, I said providing relevance to a lesson, showing them real life examples, holding them accountable, and just being consistent in our routines. Um, so those are the
Yeah,
the ones we talked about so far. There's so many strategies. I mean, we didn't even get
it
the data
is.
yet.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just like um we could act like, we have data, but we can act like we don't know that there is data supporting um strategies for closing the gap, or we can act like we don't know there's data saying there is an achievement gap. Because we'll
Mm-hmm.
act like they got the same books, they have the same books as the same opportunities, and not necessarily. We may have the same, um, we may have the same curriculums, or because in New Jersey you have New Jersey standards. What's the
Mm-hmm.
problem then? There has to be a
Mm-hmm.
problem,
Mm.
because
Oh,
this is a solution.
well, a lot of the problem lies in how teachers interpret the standards. Some teachers don't know the purpose of them, believe it or not. They don't know that how they were designed, how they should be taught. So I know, for example, Common Core, which is what the whole nation uses, but each state just adopts their own, and they make little tweaks and changes here and there, but for the most part it's still, Common Core. And it was created to be coupled with a variety of standards. So a lot of times teachers just use one standard for math, or one standard for ELA, or one standard for, when in actuality it should be an ELA standard along with a writing standard along with a speaking, or it's supposed to be, I call it a combo, as opposed to just the dollar menu. So that's the first thing. And then we don't pay attention to verbs. What is the verb within the standard itself? What is it saying that the students must be able to do? We have to take that verbiage and make that our performance task to show that they indeed can do this. How would they demonstrate this? If they can't understand and break that down, that means analyze. That means compare and contrasting. That means comprehension. So those types of deep internalization practices, that's what we have to do in order to pull out and unpack that standard, so that we're making sure that our performance tasks and what our procedures are and our activities are in fact aligned to what that standard is saying students should be able to do. So I think that's the first step. So we may all use New Jersey standards or whatever standards, but there's a difference in how each and every person interprets them.
You see, I don't know if you can see my wheels turning. My wheels turning, because I'm like, yeah, but it's still a problem. I get that. Now, this is my problem.
Mm-hmm.
I teach second grade. Just take the ELLs out of the equation, right? I teach second grade
Mm-hmm.
no matter where the students are from. Before I taught ELL students, I taught general ed. And the
Mm-hmm.
students came in below grade level, reading
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten, first grade, pre-K, same thing, same thing, same thing. And it's just now
Mm-hmm.
they just don't understand me. They don't understand me talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I had a whole plan, and I talked to my superintendent, and I said, this is a problem, because the students are coming in here not ready for second grade. But I gave
Mm-hmm.
this whole scenario of what we could do to help the situation. Then I got the ELL students. That threw my whole game off. It just threw it off, because it was a whole different scenario. But I still cannot find the answer to. I can find the answer, but my answer is, how did this happen? And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's interpretation, as you say it. That's why my wheels start turning. Well, is that it? Because there's
No, that's
something,
not it.
not
That's
it,
not
or
it.
one
That's just
thing,
one of the
one
problems
thing.
that we
Yeah,
have. I think
I
another
don't
issue,
understand.
another thing is laziness, if I can just call it what it is. Because when we're talking about closing gaps, this takes intentional effort and work. This takes, again, looking at data and doing groupings. And when you do your groupings, you have to make sure that your lessons and your work is aligned with that group and what they're able to do. And as that group grows, the work and the rigor is going to change. And so we're constantly changing what work we're supplying, what resources we're giving them as they evolve. And so a lot of times teachers see that and say, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. I don't want to differentiate. I don't want to give everybody a different homework assignment. Let's stop there. I don't want to give homework, right? Because we have some teachers now who don't even give homework. And so I hear you. And I was in the same boat as I taught second grade. The majority of my students were on the kindergarten and first grade level. And I'm like, I had 2 students on grade level. I said, Lord, what am I going to do? So honestly, something I did, a strategy when it came to words, I started with word families because I know that students and the brain works with patterns. And so
Yeah.
if you can understand the pattern of a word, the more rigorous it gets as I add on digraphs, then you can read, you can read that word out. Now let's define
Mhm.
it. Let's put the vocabulary with it. Now let's illustrate it. And so week after week, we studied different word families. I was very intentional about homework. I gave homework. All of my homework was differentiated. So it was the same as far as the spelling words. Everybody had the same spelling activities that they had to do, but reading comprehension was different. So everybody got a different reading comprehension packet that was on their level. And it was also a passage related to their interests. So at the beginning of the school year, when teachers send out those cute little get to know me, surveys where the parents have to fill all this stuff out about their child and then they don't do anything with it. No, I take that and I actually use that. My child is interested in ballerinas. My child
Yeah.
loves toys or lions. So guess what? I'm pulling passages on that grade level, on that reading level, to what that child likes, and that's what I'm giving as homework. One, for their interest, and because I'm meeting them where they are. And my groups would constantly change. And I say constantly change because they're growing. So one thing is that a lot of teachers group them, but they don't do enough reassessing, or they take too long to reassess. But we have to be
Mhm.
vigilant. We should always be note taking within guided reading groups, making sure this is what they're struggling with, if it's blending or if they're not pronouncing the ending words, which can mess up their ability to comprehend, or if it's fluency. And depending on, like, again, we have to get real specific, right? um and what depending on what that thing is that they're struggling with, at the beginning of the next group meeting, that's what we work on. We do it as a drill, or we do that as an activity. But you should always be paying attention to what's next. What's next? Okay, I have to jump in and do that. And it sounds like a lot of work. At first, it is, but the more you do it, you
Yeah,
develop
yeah.
a, because you have your resources, you know where to go to get this, you have a routine. So my homework itself is not, as far as what I'm
Mhm.
instructing them on, or what I'm giving them, that's not changing, but the work is changing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
by doing that, because differentiation plays a big role, and then as well as giving student choice, small groups. Stop this whole group teaching.
Yeah.
You can do the first introduction as a whole group, but after
Yeah.
that, or after we're actually doing our pre-assessments before we start the unit, you could right away do your groupings then, and then go in and check to come back, do a whole group activity. All right, let's go back into our small groups, because children
Yeah.
are more likely to make mistakes and tell you what they're not understanding in a smaller group, as opposed to when they're in front of the whole class. And we just
Yeah.
have to make it fun. So, and giving them goals, they have to have a say on their goals as well. So we use map data when I was teaching. And so I would tell them, this is where you are. This is where you should be by the winter or by the spring. Where do you think you can go? And they would set their goals. Okay? Have their goal on a sticky note in front on their
Yeah.
computer. This is what you're working towards. Stay focused. They meet their goals, they get a reward. And so it's just a lot of intentionality, and just like, what do they need help with? What resources can I give? What can I provide? What skills are they lacking? Okay, they've mastered this. What's next? Because it's always something to help close that gap.
Yeah.
And yes, I see the
Absolutely.
comments. I do.
Absolutely.
You do. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I didn't take that. Yeah, cuz it's man, it does sound like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's
It's a lot of
necessary.
mental work. It's
Yeah.
mental. It's more mental than
Yeah.
anything. I promise you.
Anything.
But when
Yeah.
you have that passion, and when you, like you say, when you're results driven, it's nothing.
It
It's
is.
hard work.
Right. And you're right, because I get that small group is where it happens, because it's individualized for the student, and the student where they are, because I can have a large group, and I keep on thinking back, and it's only because we had that discussion. I was being observed, and like I said, what my classroom is like, and
Mm-hmm.
I was being observed, and my boss was like, "They just back there playing." Yeah, I told you I only could work with them in small group. That's the only place I could work, because for one thing, they don't understand what I'm saying. So
Mm-hmm.
how are they going to listen? How are they going
Mm-hmm.
to get anything out of it? So they might as well talk to each other and draw and play, because what? They have no clue what I'm saying. They might get a word here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
they have no clue. So not everybody has English language learners. You just have some students who just can't catch it in a small group. You have short attention span. You have I need personal intervention. And so I like this. I this is it. It's better with a smaller class.
Oh
I'm
yes.
not here to complain, because I can't, because it ain't gonna help anything. I
It's not gonna
had
help anything.
52 students, like 26
Yeah.
in one class, 26 in the next. So it still can be done. It still can be done. That
Yes.
small group. I have how we have the kidney tables. It fits 6 students. 6 students is good. You can divide it up, and then you don't have to meet every student every day. Sometimes you could do
Right.
small group. You could do at least meet with them 2 times a week, and you can
Twice a
work,
week.
and
Yep.
then they have something to do. I like this.
Yeah.
This could
I would
this
meet
could
with
go on.
my higher level learners. I met with them twice a week, and then those who had more gaps to fill, like on the kindergarten level, I would meet with them every day.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so just depending on where they were, would require the amount of support that they needed for sure.
yeah. I had a student. I always have to say I had a student who needs so much more, and it's like, no, you got to meet with him every day, because
Yeah.
you can't say, okay, maybe I get with him twice a week. No, you can't. For one thing,
Mm-mm.
what is he going to do? Even if he has work on that he can do on his own, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you check with them, he knows you're going to check with them, because you're going to meet with his group either first or second or whenever. But
Right.
and then I found that 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes in small group works. It's just
Mm.
you have to get in there and get it done. You can't
Yeah.
um play around, and you can't play around with it. Like, it has to be that routine, like you said, where the students know not to come while you're in small group. I tell the students now, I'm like, go talk to such and such, because
Mm-hmm.
um she can tell you if you can go to the bathroom or not. We have a thing they're not even
Mm-hmm.
supposed to ask to go to the bathroom. They take this hand sanitizer, put it on their desk. When the hand sanitizer
Mm-hmm.
on their desk, you can't go till they come back. But they still feel
Mm-hmm.
like they gotta ask. Well, you go ask such and
Mm-hmm.
such, she'll let you know if you can go.
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you need? You need help. This person or that person can help you. So you have
Right.
to have that
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a rule
in
that said
place.
you couldn't disrupt me unless you were bleeding.
Somebody else said something like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
I mean, and they knew. They come, Miss Shep, are you bleeding? And it was what was so for one time they say, yes, I need a bandage. And so
Yeah.
I had to stop
Well,
to get them a bandage. But yes, those things are key. Just having those, like you said, those routines, they have to be tight. They have to be practiced and rehearsed, so that we can get the most out of our students and out of our time. Because time is, time is precious in
it
education.
is.
We
Can't
need
get it
every minute.
back. Oh my God, you
Every
can't
minute
get
matters.
back. That's so funny, because I told you I was down with the flu, right? And these were the longest days that I ever had in my life. I had I woke up and then I went back to sleep, and I thought I slept the whole morning, and it was 9:15. And then I fell back asleep, and I thought I slept the rest of the day, and it was like 10:30 or something like that. And I was like, these days, these hours right here are so long. When I get to the classroom, that 15
Mhm.
minutes is 15 minutes for real, and it's gone. There's no like, oh, we spend a lot of time and it only was 15 minutes. Nah. But yeah, that time is so precious.
It
She
is.
says timers. I have a timer for
Oh
everything.
yes. Oh yes.
Every my
Timers help keep everything on track.
Yeah. Oh, my the kids know is when they first come to my class, they think somebody's calling me, and then no, that's the alarm. I mean, it's
Mhm.
alarm for everything, and they know that it's time is up for something. What is that alarm for? What is that alarm
Mhm.
for? Right?
Mhm.
And oh yeah, they already know it's time for math. It's time for lunch. It's time for whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's time. Small group is up, and then when we have even we have an alarm for brain break. I put the
Mhm.
alarm on between 6 and 10 minutes. It depends on how hard they've been working.
Right.
As soon as
Yes, those are
that you
key.
is over, you have 1 minute to clean up. I used to have the big timer when it had 1 minute left. That means 1 minute left to clean up. But now I just have
Mhm.
the small timer and it goes off. Then it's time to clean up. But I have a timer for
Mhm.
everything. Yeah.
Yes. That's a
I appreciate
definite management piece. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not trying to, cause we could have three sessions on this because we talking about small group differentiation. That's one. Then we talk about strategies for closing that gap. We could talk
Mhm.
about class. I mean, that could be. Oh, we could talk about interpretation of the standards.
Yeah.
That's we. I think we could do this and we could have some PD certificates. Hey, oh yeah, you tune in, you get a certificate. You get a certificate, right?
Yes.
But
That's what
yeah,
we
this
do.
is this is amazing because it is even if it's a small piece that we got today that will help us to to help us to close a gap, any gap. If you teach ELL and you use those visuals, I have a whole workshop set up for that ELL
Mhm.
teachers of ELL students, and one of the strategies is using visuals because
Yeah.
and um using their language using what is it called, Google Translate or whatever it is. I have that in
Mhm.
my small group. My Google Translate is right there. It's just
Mhm.
right there. I'm talking because like I said, that's something different, but I have to use that. And then if I have students who are below reading level and I need word families, that's what I'm doing right now with that group. When
Yeah.
I said I split those kids in half, that group, we're learning word families. These over here, they're learning um trigraphs and long E, long A, long everything. What makes a long I? That's what they are. But this
Right.
group, they're not there, and they are word family. We had and family, at family. That's what we're doing, and we're making
Yeah.
sentences with those, like, and
Yeah.
we're writing stories with those. These people over here, they can write paragraphs. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is. I'm gonna keep on. Oh, somebody says Dr. Cox Magna. Hi, how are you? She said she put it in the comments. Put the name of your book, Dr. Cox, because I we need to look at that. Yes. Um that'll be something in the comments and it'll stay there. It won't go anywhere. So any closing remarks that you have for us because you just been amazing.
No,
Um
I would say the biggest thing that we can do to close academic achievement gaps is believe that we can. We have to believe that we can. And we know the power of belief and the power of having faith, believing in things that we can't always see, but just putting in the work until it manifests. That's what we have to do. We can't look at our students or our parents and make judgments. We have to be open, empathetic, to everybody, willing to give grace, and just understand that we are here for results. And I have a part to play. We have to be intentional. I think I've used that word quite a few times throughout this time, and I mean I can't stress it enough. With constantly reviewing data, constantly looking at our exit tickets, or using those informal assessments, using those pre and post assessments, using your student interest and their learning profiles to plan lessons, to keep engagement where it needs to be, and to make sure that we're always driving the car forward. And so that is what we have to do to close academic achievement gaps.
Absolutely. I see. This is how my brain works. It's like I don't know if you saw the movie Up, where the dog could talk, and then if he saw a squirrel, he could be talking about something. He saw a squirrel, he's like squirrel. So just when you said about the families, that's me. Like relating to these students as if they're you're serving them and they're your students. It helps. It's like half the battle, understanding that they're who they are, not like I'm looking down because they don't have or they don't know. No, there's somebody you're serving. You're their teacher because you're their teacher. Teach them, help them, educate them. And so that is just something that drives me because I'm brown. Like you can't get much browner than me, right? So I'm brown and I don't have a problem with anybody because of the color of their skin. I can't, So or because of where they come from, So
Right.
and that's another thing. If we understand the students, sometimes we can't relate to where the students are from, but if you understand them, you don't have to relate to them, just understand them. So
Yeah.
that's a whole other message. But
Yeah.
yeah, because just because you're brown doesn't mean you understand people who come from the inner city. I can't relate. I can't relate, but I understand it. I was a
Right.
kid. I used to like to go to the city, not to the city, but the inner city with my family. That was
Hmm.
fun. So I could understand it. So
Yes.
again, thank you, Yasha. I appreciate you. And then in the comments, you will see Yasha's information and um you will see her information to contact her. And she is valuable. She is valuable, and I know her.
Oh,
So
thank you so much.
thank you again. Yes, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, Dr. Cox Magna. I really do. And until next time, remember this is Educators with Oil podcast, where we offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. And we know raise up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart. If he learns how to learn, he's going to always be a lifelong learner. Lifelong learner. Yeah. Say that twice. And again, like, share, and subscribe. Share with another educator. And take care and have a blessed night.